Hello and welcome again. Today I'm making my version of a Moroccan lamb tagine. I say my version because though the spice blend I use is very similar, the final product looks a bit different from the traditional dish. And because I don't have an authentic tagine clay pot, I'm using my trusty enamel-coated Dutch oven. Fair warning though, this recipe is very labor-intensive, and you may likely have to raid the grocery spice section to meet the requirements. The hardest part is chopping up all the veg, so I'd recommend using the buddy system. However, if you have 4 hours to spare and are craving for the best home-cooked stew you've ever made, then let's get started. The first step is to brown the lamb in a 1/4 cup of oil over high heat. I use coconut oil, but canola or ghee would also be fine. All stews start with some element of browning, so getting this step right really deepens the flavor of the dish. Ensure the oil is fairly hot before you add the lamb. It should sizzle on contact. I'm using roughly a pound of leg meat cut into 2-inch cubes and trimmed of any excess fat. I'm also frying this in 2 batches. If you overcrowd the pot, the lamb will spring too much water and it will take forever to brown. So work in smaller batches. Also, most recipe books won't say this, but I like to add a little seasoning to the chunks at this stage. I'm not a fan of the smell of unseasoned meat being cooked, so a little salt and pepper will help in a big way. Adjust the heat to maintain a steady fry and flip the pieces once to get a good amount of browning all around. Each batch should take roughly 10 minutes. Notice the dark, crispy crust on each chunk? That's exactly what I'm looking for. So using a slotted spoon, I'm going to transfer this batch to a bowl and then repeat the process for the remaining lamb. With all the lamb thoroughly browned, it's time for the aromatics. Reduce the heat to medium and add 1 large onion, 5 cloves of garlic, and a 2-inch knob of ginger, all roughly chopped. Sauté for about 2 minutes. Now comes the crazy spice blend. In here, I have turmeric, whole cloves, cinnamon, cardamom pods, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, coriander, cumin seeds, and lime zest. I'll include the exact amounts in the description below. Quick tip about cinnamon though. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I respect its importance in certain cuisines. So when recipes call for entire sticks, I usually just grate a small amount with a microplane and get the same effect without the overpowering blast. In dishes like this, you never want to taste any one spice over everything else. That's what usually causes you to get fed up very quickly. Once the spices have toasted for 2 minutes, it's time to add the veg. I'm using 1 large sweet potato, 2 carrots, and about a pound of pumpkin. This is where my recipe strays most significantly from traditional tagine, but I love how the pumpkin and sweet potato melt to form a thick, hearty gravy. Next, return the lamb and any accumulated juices. A can of chopped tomatoes will also help create a bit of acidic brightness. Add enough water to cover everything completely. As for fresh herbs, I like a combination of rosemary, thyme, and Chadon Beni. Cilantro works too if you live outside the Caribbean. Once again, ensure the water level covers everything. Give 1 last stir before covering the pot and reducing the heat to achieve a slow simmer. Let the mixture gently cook for up to 3 hours while the gravy slowly reduces. Every half an hour, check on the progress. Now here's something for your personal preference. If you want a thinner gravy with larger vegetable chunks, then avoid stirring. I, however, like a slightly more homogeneous mixture, so as the pumpkin softens, I'll stir and smash the chunks to let them dissolve and thicken the sauce. Also, as you get closer to the final consistency, check for seasoning. If too much of the pumpkin sweetness is coming through, then it needs more salt. You should be done when the gravy looks thick like this. Now you can eat this right away, but all stews taste better if they've been allowed to cool. The flavors continue to develop for hours after. Actually, if you are making this for guests, then I'd recommend cooking it from the day before and letting it chill overnight in the fridge. It also means you won't be completely exhausted by the time your guests arrive. Tagine is usually served with couscous. It's quick and easy to make, especially with a pack of frozen peas and carrots. I also usually mix in a little butter as I add the boiling water to give it some extra flavor. You can serve the stew on the side, but I like heaping dollops right over everything. And because my hands are nervously shaking when I do these close-up plating shots, I inevitably made a mess on the plate. And while that wouldn't normally bother me in the slightest, I felt that leaving that drop on the side would make many of you uncomfortable, so I mopped it up with a napkin. Anyway, I hope you're not intimidated by the length of this recipe. There's really nothing hard about it. If you set aside a day for cooking and you're feeling for something different, then I highly recommend giving this a try. Until the next time, have a good night and keep safe.